Okay, so recording, one, two, three, starting. Last class, as usual today, I'll go just a little bit back in what we discussed last class, okay? In order to link the ideas. So last class we were discussing about the morpheme. Now what is a morpheme? The definition says that the morpheme is the minimal unit of meaning. I won't go back here in the explanation of what meaning means for morphology. If you want to remind that, if you don't remember, please watch the video for last class. And an example of this are the parts in the word unsystematically, in which un has a meaning, it's no. System is the root, is the basis of the word. All means having a certain characteristic of being a system, and li is an adverbial suffix that turns unsystematical, which is an adjective, into unsystematically, which is an adverb. Okay? So, as you can see, morphemes are different from words. They are a more basic unit in relation to the word. Okay? Uh, I showed you some examples of morphemes with one morpheme, lady, water, crocodile, and so on. With two morphemes, desirable for instance. With three morphemes, boyishness, and four morphemes, gentlemanliness, undesirability, and more than four, this very immoral word, yeah, ungentlemanliness or anti-disestablishmentarianism. Okay, so uh, it's not the same a morpheme and a syllable. It's a very common mistake students make. Okay, syllables are one instance of language, and morphemes are another instance. Okay, for example, crocodile has three syllables, four syllables, crocodile, but only one morpheme. Okay, it's it's impossible to split this word into smaller units of morphological meaning. Okay, so as we saw, a morpheme can have different phonetic forms in different environments. A unit of meaning can vary in sound without changing the meaning. And we discussed this, for example, this, an, il, ir. In disrespect, irresponsible, illegal. They all are the same morpheme with different phonetical realizations. So we say that they are allomorphs. The same happens to roots with the final s, bis, and coaches, okay, in which we pronounce this with the schwa, okay. Although there is a phonetic difference, a subtle, in fact, to be honest, it's a very subtle phonetic difference, and for us, foreign speakers of English, it's almost, I said almost because as language students, I hope you have this perception, but it's hard to make a difference. There is a difference in phonetics, but certainly there is no difference to morphology. It's the same plural morpheme. Okay? We call these allomorphs. So it's time now to make a chart. Okay, I'll try to build up a chart over here. I'll avoid using the board. I'll avoid using the board because it does not go to the recording. So I'll give preference to the word processor. So let's put a chart here. I think this is enough. So let's compare sound and function. Can you see this? Yes, sound and function. Okay, when sound is the same. I really would like to know, do you know that the shortcut to the equals symbol? Alt, don't, don't you know? No? Não vou usar o mapa de caracteres aqui só para isso, ok? If you prefer, it's simpler if you use the symbols, the mathematical symbols equals and different. Here, I'll use the words same and different. So when the sound is the same, when the sound is different, yeah, different phonetical realizations, but the function is the same, what do I call this kind of morphemes that have the same function and different sounds? They are allomorphs. Okay? Is this okay? So I have allomorphs when sound is different. Sometimes the spelling is different and function is the same. The morpheme has the same, brings up the same meaning. So they are allomorphs. Now what happens when it's exactly the opposite? When sound is the same and the function is different. Very good, Camila. Homophones. Now let's reflect about these nomenclatures. Okay? Let's reflect about this naming. Um, it is me, Mario. Fácil chamar a atenção dele, hein? Brincadeira, Mario, fica à vontade. Ok, allomorphs. Why allo over here on the upper line, but homo in the lower line? Well, you have to build up a morphological analysis of the words allomorph and homophone. Well, first of all, this first one here in the upper column, is all about morphs. Now, what's the meaning of morph in Greek? Morph comes from form, okay? So, while this is all about form, the second one is all about sounds, phones. Let me choose a better color. Phones. Okay, so the first difference is this. Here I'm comparing forms, functions. Yeah? So when we talk about the form, about morpheme, our focus is the function. Now, when we talk about phones, our focus is the sound. Now, what does allo mean? Well, let's go to the easiest part. What does homo mean? Same. Yeah, homosexual. Likes the same sex. This is the best example. Yeah. So, talk about homosexual. Who's the guy in that picture you published in Facebook? Is that a friend of yours? Ah, okay. You collected it on the internet. Yeah, someone with wings, an angel. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I'd say very qualita. Yeah. Too much qualita. Uh, well, so let's use an appropriate color. Homo means the same. And what about allo? Okay, homo, same, sound. Yeah? The sound is the same, so homophones. Now, what does allo mean? Same? Not exactly. They look like, but they are not exactly the same. Why? Allomorph. Okay? The form is exactly the same. Is the form exactly the same? For example, if I take the word miss, sorry, oh my god, misunderstand. Okay, if I get the prefix miss, and if I take the word disrespect, if I take this, do I have the same form? Do I have the same function? It's not the same form, but it's the same function. It's an analogous, a similar morph. Similar is not the same as same. When I say homo, I mean exactly the same. When I say allo, I mean similar, having some kind of similarity. Okay, so please keep this chart in mind. I'd say this is the foundations for a proper understanding of the differences between allomorphs and homophones. Okay, allomorphs are all about morphology. Homophones are uh, similarities, phonetic similarities between two different morphemes. Okay, when two different morphemes are coincident in sound. Okay, so it belongs to the world of phonetics. Okay, it's a phonetic coincidence, whereas this belongs to the universe of morphology. Yes, Amanda. Homo is the same, allo is similar. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Did you watch the video for last class? You people who missed the class, don't forget to do it. Okay? Especially those who missed the class. Yeah, for example, take the negative prefix in. It has several allomorphs. In with an, ill, in illogical, in improbable, ir, in irrelevant, and so on. Okay? For example, this one. This one, the difference is very subtle. Hunted, banned, and finished. Okay? If you remember Susanna's class uh, in phonetics and phonology, you remember that these pronunciations that we normally tend to, in Toscan English, everybody pronounces this like hunted. Teacher, I hunted last week, banned, and finished. Yeah, when it's not finished. Sorry, fished. Again, again. I'm trying to. I think it's because I'm very anxious to finish the course. Yeah, fished, fished. Yes, I fished. It's not fished. It's fished. Yeah, with a final T. And but please, you who are English teachers, don't make out of this difference a paranoia, okay? So that you will cause your students not to speak, okay? Let them speak when possible. Correct them, But this shouldn't be a paranoia, especially in basic levels, okay? Because everybody you understand will understand if you say I fished, yeah. Although the correct is I fished, but we are not Americans, thank God. We are not British, thank God, yeah. So we don't have to speak exactly like them, okay? We have to be understandable, just that. By the way, I listened to my English in the recording. I found it horrible. Horrible. I don't like my English in recordings. Uh, I don't know if it's good live, but in recordings, I think everybody is a little bit disappointed by the own voice in recordings. It's because we don't listen, you know that, yeah? We don't listen from the ear to ourselves. There are bones that conduct the sound, and the sound looks different. Well, can you think of more? We discussed this. More allomorphs. Well, if you can, think of more and make up a list for yourself, okay? It's a good exercise to reinforce the concept, okay? We have to move on because this is last class. Just a review. So, and what can we do about the plurals, the irregular plurals? Well, there is no agreement in morphology about this. So we are sticking to one theory, but not every morphologist is convinced of this. Yeah, but George Yule in his work The Study of Language, published by the Cambridge University, says that the plural, I'll try to summarize this. The plural for sheep, for example, one sheep, two sheep, crab, one crab, two crab, he considers it to be a zero morpheme that we represent by this symbol, yeah, okay, a zero morpheme, which is a morpheme that is there, but you cannot see it clearly expressed in the word. It's almost like the invisible man, yeah. Not even if you throw ink in the invisible man, you will see it, yeah. Não vai fazer que nem o Chaves, jogar tinta amarela no homem invisível que está torcendo o braço da sua barriga. Tá? Não dá para ver esse morfema, mas ele está lá, ok? And he says that for man, for instance, man plus plural, we have a vowel change in the word as the morph that produces the irregular plural form for man. This is also a case of a zero morpheme, a vowel change that is a kind of change that is not very common in the language. Normally, we change the beginning of the word or the end of the word, yeah, or we add some part, a prefix or a suffix, not the middle of the word, except for these few irregular plurals. Okay. Now, the new class really starts. Okay. So let's take the example of the word electric. Okay, electric usually has a final k, yeah, electric, but it has a final s in electricity. But it's the same morpheme, and electric and electris. It's the same morpheme, although the sound is different. That's what we mean by allomorphy. Okay. The morpheme electric has two allomorphs, electric and electris. Okay? The second, electris, occurs only when the suffix et is attached to the word electricity. Okay? Words such as life, shelf, leaf have a final F. Yeah, one knife, two knives. Okay. Uh, when these words are pluralized, the base has a final v. Yeah, lives, shelves, leaves. Thus, these words have two allomorphs: life and live. Okay. Uh, shelf and shelf. Okay, and then we have to consider both. There is a change in phonetics, but it does not change the function. Again, same same function, different phonetical realization. Then we have a case of allomorphs. Well, what can we say about morphemes? What else can we say about them? The form of a morpheme is based on its function, as we have been discussed since last class. Okay, spelling is then irrelevant. Okay, life, shelf, 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 and shelf, they are the same morpheme. Okay. Now, homophones, as I have explained in the chart, are different morphemes. Okay, remember, when I talk about allomorphs, I talk about the same morpheme. When I talk about homophones, I talk about different morphemes that have the same phonological form. Okay, allomorphs, same morphological function, and as a consequence, same morphological form. It's a kind of redundancy to talk about a morphological form. If it's morphological, it's a form. Yeah? Now, homophones have the same phonological form. The similarity belongs to phonetics, but when it comes to morphology, there is a big difference. Take the word rabbit, the plural morpheme for rabbit. Now take the word Rodriguez's with a final S. This is a plural morpheme. Rabbit, rabbits. This final S in rabbit is a plural morpheme, whereas the final S in Rodriguez's is the genitive case, which we also learn as apostrophe S possessive case. Yeah. So it's a completely different function, but the pronunciation, the phonetical realization is the same. Not exactly the same here, because here I have a final is. Yeah. But if you take Amanda's booklet, Amanda's watching the class, same or different morpheme? Take the first case. Let's go to the word processor. Let's go to the word processor. Amanda's attending a class. Now, Amanda's boyfriend is Dida. Yes, Amanda. Is it? Am I still updated? Yes, still Dida. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I have to ask. Bauman says that relationships nowadays are liquid, so I have to ask every day. Yeah. It used to be Dida, and it still is. So the function of this apostrophe, yes, I don't think it's an apostrophe. I have to find the apostrophe. Where is the apostrophe? Oh, my keyboard is in English. Okay, now okay. Ah, much better. Take a look at this apostrophe S, and take a look at these apostrophe S in red highlighting. Are they the same morpheme or a different morpheme? With the same function or with a different function? Of course, that's why they are different morphemes. Do they have a same or a different phonetics? Same phonetics. So, are these two guys here homophones or allomorphs? homophones. Okay, just homophones. Going back to the slides. The same happens to drives. Yeah, I drive, he drives. This is the third person singular morpheme, which in a future moment of this course you will learn that this final S is a case of inflectional morpheme because it inflects the verb into a final S, okay? Into a third person singular, sorry. Now, let's take a look at some more homophones. Sail and sail, okay? Completely different words with completely different roots and with the same phonetical form. Red in the past and red the color. Also a case of homophones, okay? The spelling is completely different, the root is completely different, but we pronounce it the same. Two, two, and two. Okay? Number two, two, preposition, and two, meaning also, two. Yeah? They are all homophones, but they are three different morphemes. Okay? Teacher, everybody asks this question. What about sheet and sheet? No, sheet and sheet are different phonemes. Sheet with a short E, with a short E, and sheet with a long vowel. Yeah. There is a case of a friend of mine who married a British girl, and he went to London to spend his honeymoon in the mother-in-law's house. Very nice way to spend the honeymoon, yeah. And he tried to be nice. He tried to help out in the house. He was making the bed and folding the sheets. And he kindly asked the woman, his mother-in-law, said, "Oh, please, where can I put the sheets?" She said, "I don't know in your country, but in England we normally put them in the toilet." So don't make confusion, and don't do like my ex professor in the university from India that said number three, and that's a three. It's different. Yeah, in standard English they are really different, but the way he spoke there was no difference at all. Yeah, so uh, I don't think it was a good idea to use animations. Uh, okay, so linguistics says that in all languages, discrete linguistic units combine rule-governed ways to form larger units. This is a kind of paraphrase from the uh, uh, the course on linguistics by Saussure. Yeah. What are these discrete linguistic units? Are linguistic units that don't like to show up? Of course not. Yeah. These linguistic units get together to form new units. Well, putting this in a simpler language, it means that smaller pieces, like morphemes, get together to form larger pieces called what's what's the larger piece of language in relation to morphemes? Words. And also, smaller pieces in relation to the morpheme get together to form the morphemes. What are the smaller pieces in relation to the morpheme? The the phonemes. The phonemes get together to form morphemes, okay? We also have the lexemes. Yeah, the lexemes are bases for words, okay? We can talk about them in a proper moment. And after I study a little bit about lexemes, because as I said, this is not my area. I'm here on an effort, so I have to check out what lexemes mean so that I can tell you, not to tell you foolish things. So take a look at this. Sound units combine to form morphemes. Morphemes get together and combine to form words. Now guess what? Words get together to form phrases. As a friend of mine from engineering said, ah, legal, né? Você faz letras. No mestrado você vai fazer o quê? Palavras? Né? Yeah, very funny, yeah? Very funny. Mas é melhor, tá, é melhorzinho do que, ah, você faz letras, ah, que legal, você vai ser professor, né? É só isso que a gente vai ser. Né? Ainda fala assim, né? Coitado, né? Vai ser professor. Phrases combine to form sentences, and sentences combine to form paragraphs. Paragraphs combine to form books that we can never read because they are too prolixos. Yeah, like Michel Foucault, yeah, Amanda? Too much prolix. É prolixo. É um homem prolixo. Ok. Se vocês acham Foucault prolixo, vocês precisam ver as coisas que o Lacan escreve. O Danilo, que participa do grupo com a gente, do grupo de estudos, ele disse que uma vez um aluno perguntou ao Lacan: professor, a minha incompreensão das suas palestras é um sintoma meu ou seu? Ele falou: não, é meu mesmo. É porque eu não gosto mesmo de ser entendido. Relaxa, você não é burro, não. Ok, so... okay, so what is the relationship between morphemes and words? Humans can understand words that have never been heard before. Why do you think this happens? This is for you to give your opinions. Why do you think it happens? Vou chegar mais até pra cá para gravar. Why, for example, when Rogério Magri said o salário do trabalhador brasileiro é imexível, embora tenham rido pra caramba dele, tirado um sarro, chamado o cara de analfabeto, mas todo mundo entendeu. Exatamente, existe uma lógica para isso. Yeah, children do it a lot. Yeah, and generative grammar theory relies on these facts, okay, to formulate their how can I say, their foundations. Yeah. Exatamente, eu fazia isso ontem. Eu ontem fazia isso de criar uma palavra. Ah, we do it a lot in Tosca English. Yeah, I have a friend, the John who has a page on the Facebook. Is my name is John. He said, John, I will convide you to give a palestra for my students in about your dictionary. This is a kind of mixing languages and mixing suffixes, prefixes, okay? And it works a lot when you are teaching English in a not so compromised way with fluency, oral fluency, such as courses like English Instrumental. If you make students conscious of prefixes and suffixes, you have half a way moved ahead. Yeah, because then if he's conscious of the functions of prefixes, he can grasp the meaning by logic deductions. Okay, well, this is what happened, for example, when Vicente Mateus, I told the joke, but some of you were not here, said, eu gosto daquele pato, porque ele é como jogador do Corinthians, que joga em todas as posições. Aquele pato que estava na água e agora está na grama. Além de aquático, também é gramático, né? Ou o Sócrates é invendável, inegociável e imprestável, né? Então, Vicente Mateus era o rei do morfema, né? Okay? So, language is very productive, okay? And this is one of the characteristics that make a language be a living entity, okay? Not something that never changes. We can create new words all the time. I gave you last class the example of the rewritable media. Rewritable was a word that didn't exist until a rewritable media was developed by technology. Okay, and we have many other words like this. For example, let me think. Scan, escanear in Portuguese. Okay, we didn't need this verb until we had a machine called scanner. Of course, we can say digitalizar, but even then, we are creating a word from the word digital. Okay, and this is the process. This is what children do. So children are not speaking wrong. They are using logic. Okay, they are not according to the formal grammar, but they are understandable. There is a grammar behind it, which is not the formal one. Okay, take for example the suffix in a writable CD. The suffix "-ble" is present here in writable, in rewritable, and in unrewritable, which is not a word that is, how can I say, in the dictionary, but uh, morphology allows me to do it, to create it. Okay, unrewritable, something that is not possible of being rewritten. Sorry. So, how many types of morphemes are there? Now we start going deeper in the subject. There are quite a lot times of morphemes. The first one are the bound morphemes. We also have the free morphemes. Well, if I tell you the bound morpheme is an opposite, kind of opposite of the free morpheme, what do you understand by bound morpheme? If I tell you, I'll make you use the logic, your logic. Free morphemes are morphemes like boy, sun, pen. They are at the same time a morpheme, and they can exist alone as a word. They can stand alone as words. Okay. Um, Examples: desk, like in the word desktop. Desk is a morpheme, but it's also the word desk that designs this thing in the world. Okay. Examples of free morphemes. Can you give me more? Morphemes that are morphemes and words. Best, past. Okay. Anybody else? So this is what we call a free morpheme. Now a bound morpheme is exactly the opposite. Can a bound morpheme be a word? No, because it's bound. It's always depending on another morpheme. It's like uh, some people that when we see them, they are always together, like people who are close friends. You can never see them separated. Or like husband and wife that are very dependent on each other, okay, in a perfect marriage, of course. Uh, they are like, as we say in Portuguese, unicarne. There is no uh, bound morpheme which is self-sufficient. It needs another morpheme to mean something. It has no meaning on itself. Okay? The life of a bound morpheme is meaningless without another morpheme. We also have the root morpheme. What is a root morpheme? Is a morpheme that likes reggae? A roots morpheme? It smokes a hemp? No. It's a morpheme that goes to the reggae nights in São Luís? No, no, no. A root morpheme is what we call, in Portuguese, o radical. Uh, Please don't call it the radical morpheme because it's not Islamic, it's not Jew, okay? It's not a Chechenian, okay? It's not radical. Radical, it's like Eloise Helena is radical, not the morpheme. The morpheme is a root, okay? We have stem morphemes. This idea of stem morphemes, I'll on purpose. I'll do it on purpose. I'll leave for a next moment because you have to understand very well the bound, the free, and the root to understand what a stem is. Okay. We have derivational morphemes. Okay. Well, derivational morphemes, what is their function? If they are derivational, what is the function of a derivational morpheme? Derivation of words. Now let's think about something that has nothing to do with morphology, but at the same time has everything to do with morphology. Okay? When we derive something into something else, do we still have the brute material, the raw material? For example, I'll get a tree, I'll cut down a tree, and derive this tree into a desk. Is this still the tree? Is this still a tree? But can you imagine there was a tree here? Yeah, that's the idea of a derivational process. Okay, when you derive something into something else, that thing that that existed before is not there anymore, but you can still see it uh, in between. Yeah, it's like cheese and milk. Cheese is cheese and milk is milk. They are completely different, but you know one comes from the other. Yeah, it's exactly what happens with the final termination all in derivational. Well, derivation is a noun. It's a word class called noun. Derivational, when I put the final all, it becomes now an adjective. And a noun is not an adjective. The word class changes. But meaning, semantic meaning is somehow related. Everything that is derivational, it's because goes through a process of derivation. Yeah, get it? So when I have a new word class, that part of the word responsible for changing the word class from noun to verb, or from verb to adjective, or from adjective into noun, that part of the word, that morpheme, is called a derivational morpheme. Inflectional morphemes are morphemes responsible for the process of inflection. And what is inflection? You studied Latin, yeah? With Catunda or Demetrio? With both. What is an inflection? It's a change, a kind of change in the word, yeah, to produce a different meaning. Okay. Um, what is to make when you make a flexion in something, you bend it, you like change its shape. Yeah. I'll inflect my arm. Yeah. It's straight, then I curve it. It's an inflection. It's like adapting the word to a certain situation. In Latin, we have cases in which we have caso dativo, caso ablativo, caso acusativo. In Portuguese, do we have inflections? Yes or no? Do we have inflections in Portuguese? Eu estou, nós estamos, eles estão. Cada uma dessas formas é uma inflexão do verbo estar. Né? Mas veja, inflections are not exactly conjugations, but conjugations are a kind of inflection. Okay? When I have an inflectional morpheme, these inflectional morphemes are morphemes that are linked to the other morphemes to produce an inflectional effect to suit the grammar, okay, to fulfill grammar needs. All right. So inflectional morphemes are deeply related to uh, syntax. And that's why this course is called morphosyntax, because you've got to understand the morphology in order to then move to the syntax. Is that a bee or a fly? A bee? Ah, yes, we were talking about the bees, and then she was motivated to come here to say hello. We also have the affixes, which can be split into two categories: the prefixes and the suffixes. And although we are not going to discuss this because we don't have this in English, the infixes. Prefixes come before, suffixes comes at the end. Infixes are inserted somehow in the word. Yeah, I think it's the case of the mesóclise in Portuguese. That's a kind of infix. Yeah. Uh, when I was writing my master's dissertation, there was a case in which I had to write. Neste capítulo nos debruçaremos sobre o tema tal. E a minha orientadora mandou que eu mudasse. Neste capítulo, debruçar-nos-emos. Eu falei, professora, tadinhos, o que eles fizeram? Pobre dos emos, né? É feio pra burro a mesóclise. Tá lá, existe, é gramatical, é feio pra burro, né? Eu vou continuar falando nos debruçaremos. Embora eu tenha sido obrigado a escrever diferente. Alright. We also have grammatical morphemes. Okay, grammatical morphemes are morphemes that are there also to fulfill grammatical rules. We are going to discuss them in an appropriate moment. But morphemes can also be classified into two more general groups, as content morphemes and function morphemes. Content morphemes are not morphemes that are happy, okay? They are not content. Oh, I'm so content today. No. They are morphemes that bring up semantical meaning. And function morphemes are morphemes that are related to a grammatical function. Okay? I'm very content that you are paying attention to the class. Okay? And then, summarizing the set of morphemes, we had this very nice, very pleasant image of a tree, yeah? So we have morphemes. They can be either lexical or grammatical. The lexical morphemes can be either free or bound. Free morphemes, examples are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and so on. Bound morphemes, like subvert, the vert end does not exist on itself, so it needs the sub prefix. Invert and convert, the same happens to sub, in, and con, yeah, which do not exist on their own. Oh, you say, oh, teacher, yes, con does exist on its own. There are the pros and cons of the government of Dilma. No, this is another con. This is not the con we are talking about here. It's a case of controversy and the pros and cons. Con. It's a case of allomorphy or homophony. Homophony, okay, the same sound with a different morphological function. The grammatical morphemes can also be split into free and bound. Okay, the free grammatical morphemes are the prepositions, the articles, and the conjunctions, whereas the bound grammatical morphemes can also be split into inflectional or derivational morphemes. So here you can have a panorama of what we are going to see till the next exam. Okay, this is the content for the exam. When we cover these three, we are ready on morphology, the morphology part of the course, and we can move on to syntax. Right? Now, what's the time? It's 9:04. My class goes till 9:10. Is it? Okay. So just to give you an overview of what we are going to do, next class we are going to talk about the types of morpheme. These lots of types of morphemes we discussed here: bound, free, derivational, inflectional in detail. So please, não perda. Yeah. If you know someone that would like to attend the class to watch the video, please you can share the links, okay? And I strongly recommend you keep these links safe, yeah, because they will be very useful to study for the exam, okay? So it's over. Terminando, marmota 1, 2, 3.